I guess today, really the focus is on what we talked about with showcasing value to prospects or how to actually present your services because a lot of advisors want to show off pitch decks, here's our investment strategy, here's why it's so much better. And I think you have a little bit of a different opinion on that or how to go about that. So I guess, you know, maybe just run me through the first, not the first meeting, but that second meeting where they go, hey, I'm interested. They've given you statements. What are you now doing when you sit down with that prospect there?
Yeah, so I consider the second meeting somewhat of a, by the way, nice little espresso shot there. That's
Thank you. I'm biggest.
beautiful. That I consider the second meeting really more of an extension of meeting one,
Mhm.
what is traditionally considered meeting one. Because remember, everything is built on the foundation of that first 30-minute conversation that you're having with a client. And my objective in that meeting one is to help the client recognize the taking action. They need to feel the weight of that before they leave that call. The second objective that I have is for them to send me statements. So I intentionally, in my first interaction with them, do not go into a full fact finding mode where I want to know where your assets are. Is it IRA? Is it 401k? Who's the investment advisor? How's it allocated? All of that is going to be shown to me on the statements. And Joe, you've talked with enough investment advisors. What happens when a client tells you, "Oh, I've got this much in my IRA and it's managed at a, this conservative level." What do they find out most of the time when they look at the statements?
The numbers are wrong.
I'm sorry to hear.
The numbers are wrong, or there's different, what they told you isn't 100% right, anyways.
Yeah. Clients don't know what they have.
Hmm.
They don't know how it's invested. They think that they're in conservative positions and they send over their statements to you and they're 100% in tech stocks. But because they're in, strong companies, they think it's conservative. Well, that's not what conservative means. Well, maybe that's what conservative means to them.
Hmm.
But we need to know the facts, not use this nebulous language like, hey, what are you aggressive or conservative? Oh, I'm conservative. So why do you have 80% stocks? So I don't go through all of the traditional data gathering on meeting one because between meeting one and meeting two, they're tasked with sending me statements. If they're not going to send me statements after meeting one, then when we start meeting two, we start from a place of, hey, in order to do this analysis for you properly, we needed to ensure that we have your statement so that we're not putting a half-baked plan in front of you. What kept you from doing that? Oh, I forgot. I got busy. You know what? My uncle was in the business for 3 minutes and he thinks that there's a better way and I shouldn't need to send you statements. Whatever the case is, I'm going to focus on uncovering the hurdle of sending me statements. If it's a privacy issue, hey, I didn't really feel like I wanted to send it through the email. Well, anybody who's operating in, a virtual closing position, they better have a safe, digitally secured way for people to send it. If you're asking people to send you their $1 million statements to your email via the World Wide Web, yeah, I understand why they have questions about your business integrity. It's 2025. Spend $20 a month and have a secured Dropbox location that they can upload that stuff to. Um, Sometimes they still aren't comfortable. They still aren't comfortable just sending anything through even a secure digital statement like that. Well, hey, if you'd like to send it physically, what we can do is send you a UPS prepaid envelope, which, by the way, doesn't get charged unless they use it. So you you just go do that. Hey, charge it to the account, and once they drop it in the mail, it comes off to you. It's secured. They feel better. UPS is more trustworthy than the World Wide Web. Whatever. So that's fine. But I'm always going to hold meeting 2. If it's booked on my calendar, I'm going to show up, have a conversation with the client. What I'm not going to do is put a half-baked plan in front of them. What I might do is show them a sample of what somebody else's plan looked like. That here's some things that you're going to see when we do this for you, given whatever the circumstances are around them. Mm-hmm. Well, let's say, so those are all the contingencies of if things didn't go well. Get that out of the way. Let's move on to what happens when things go well. They've uploaded statements. I've done the analysis, and I'm ready to show them something. What am I showing them? I prefer a blended approach. I'm not 100% pitch deck, and I'm not 100% software deep dive. So what I'll do is I put together about 5 slides that show some branding stuff to it, but it shows their current state at a high level. Here's what you told me. These are your ages. This is your state. This is because tax is a big focus for my practice. This is your current tax rate. This is your future RMD tax rate as it's currently projected. Here are the assets that you sent over to me and what that net worth is. And there's a couple of slides in there about, my mission and, my success and different people I've worked with, blah, blah, blah. So we're 5, 6 slides deep. And then on the slide itself, I have a link to my retirement analyzer software. Whether you use eMoney, whatever, right Capital, whatever it is that you use, I link into the software, Quanti. Sometimes I'll use that one instead of retirement analyzer, depending on where the problem lies. But I want to show them systematically where their problem is. And I tell them, hey, listen, this is a little bit of a peek behind the curtain as to how I look at your portfolio. And I'll tell them, hey, this is where your problem lives. It's in this area. And I take, they'll see, wow, there's 15 different ways he looks at the portfolio, and the first 6 are fine. And I'll go into those first 6. I say, these ones are all fine. But when I came to this tab, here's where your problem lives. And I'll do an interactive exchange with them on that problem tab where I've identified something wrong in their portfolio or something that's suboptimal. Because we don't always find like glaring problems. Sometimes it's just, hey, this isn't optimized. You could do much better than this with a few small tweaks. And here's why I do it this way. In the cold conversion code process, one of the things that one of the things that we're working to eliminate is the feeling of disconnection that exists between you and me. Mm-hmm. We want to create some level of engagement from the client. They're not just sitting back with their arms folded, judging how cool my slides are. I want them leaned in to their numbers on a system that's kind of a peek behind the curtain. What most advisors won't show you. The real engine that's driving my financial future if I choose to work with you. So I'm going to show them, hey, here's where the problem lives. This is my replication for when people would come into my office, sit across the desk, and we would push paperwork back and forth. And hey, this is what it looks like. Here's the folder that I could hand you that you could walk away with, the tangible thing in hand. I can't give you a tangible thing in hand virtually, but I can give you a tangible experience of working and getting your hands into the system. Because inevitably, the client has left something out. Maybe intentionally, maybe mistakenly, but oh no, I actually have a brokerage account too. Would that solve this problem, Jason? Let's see. Let's put the data into the form, and oh, it helped, but it didn't solve it. Or you know what? It actually made the problem worse. They get to see how disclosing the information properly to me helps put things in alignment. So when I'm asking for more proof and evidence of what they're providing, it doesn't seem like I'm just hunting and fishing. I'm actually looking to solve their problem. So letting them engage with your core system at a small level helps provide that approximation of being in the office with you, working to solve the paperwork and problems together. And this also avoids them thinking, hey, I've done all the work, and they're going to see the end slide that shows, hey, here's your problem 100% solved. We're not there yet. If you recall back to prior conversations, we said that I don't solve your problem until you hire me to. Whether that's by moving assets or writing a check for my planning fees, my objective after meeting one is to show you that I deeply understand your problem and to show you the impact of maintaining your problem, not addressing it. So the next thing I want to do is give them a peek down the hallway of what solutions look like. So Joseph, I see you've got a Roth conversion concern, and or actually they don't have a Roth conversion concern. That's a solution. What they have is a concern about paying too much taxes. So you've seen how huge your tax bill is going to be, and it's crazy that this is coming off of dollars that you're not even going to really need, but you're forced out because of the way the U.S. tax code works and those required minimum distributions. So when I've worked with clients like this before, there's about 4 different ways that this can be solved that you'll find out in the market. And I run down those 4 different ways. We'll evaluate which one of those are best for you. Some of them, in the process of explaining them, I'll eliminate, but I want them to know I already know that. I already know that there's a strategy out there where you're going to buy a business and intentionally depreciate the value of the business, sell the business, your IRA, and now that it's owned by a depreciated asset, you can write off that as a tax loss. Wow, that sounds really gray legally. Today, at age 67 years old, I'm not sure you want to put your hand up for being in that type of a situation. So that's not something I feel morally, ethically in alignment with offering to clients such as yourself. So we won't even explore that for you. Here are the other 3 ways that you'll find out there as you continue looking. I readily accept that they're not just clicking on my ad. They've clicked on, at minimum, 4 or 5 others.
Yeah.
They might even think I'm one of the others.
Very true.
So, this is just a side note to advisors. If you're not online clicking around ads that look like you were the customer, that your ideal customer.
Don't give away the sauce. No. You should see my feed. It's literally just advisor ad, advisor ad, advisor ad, advisor ad. I don't even have a social media I need to make a separate account just to look at ads. But exactly what you're saying. Yeah, seeing what other people are saying.
You should know what other alternatives to your strategies are. What's being presented to folks. And you should know why it's not a good idea for them to do that. Because I've used this strategy, what clients have told me is, man, you really know your stuff. I like the way you present this. Because I'm not just pitching my thing. I'm explaining the market environment.
And that's something that's interesting too, because what you're doing subconsciously is you're buying them into wanting to continue the process. Because when if you come in and you say, hey, okay, you're paying a big tax bill. Well, what we would do is, or what you could do, even if they were saying that you and leaving the problem on them, but they're saying you could do a Roth conversion. Well, now they know what you're going to tell them to do, right? Versus when you're opening up and you're like, well, you have this angle, and this angle, right? Don't, either of them could make, it depends on your situation. Well, now they're going, okay, he clearly knows all the different avenues. Maybe I haven't heard this one, or maybe I've heard each one independently from one advisor. I want to hear this person's opinion because they're kind of giving me the neutral, just, hey, here's the different options, but they may know which one's better than which rather than just saying this is the one, process that would work for you, which I think a lot of advisors, and I hear it all the time, they'll be like, I've got this process. It's like the best process, and it's this, and that. That's what we do for clients, and it's great, and it works perfectly, right? And then
Have
when
a cookie cutter that they put everybody into.
exactly, and then as soon as you do that, you've now told them your exact strategy. And if you didn't tailor it, which I think we'll get into, right, which is the context of what their situation is, now they're maybe like, it doesn't really sound like it's for me. Or they go, well, this guy does that, and this guy told me the exact same thing. Now you're competing on who knows what because you're just selling the same exact thing, or you're making it seem like you're selling the exact same thing, right?
Yeah, you've commoditized yourself
Exactly.
instead of separating yourself. And by the way, as a fee only, or not a fee only, as a fiduciary that can charge fees for advice, I can honestly say that's why I wouldn't advise one of my clients to do that business depreciation strategy. I know I don't run a business depreciation strategy. That's not on my platform anywhere. But could I be retained for advice on that financial transaction? Absolutely.
Mhm.
And if a client ever brought it to me, I would advise them against it for these reasons. So that's why I don't recommend it for my clients. There's a different sound to it than when you make it seem like this is an alternative that I could offer, but I choose not to.
Mhm.
I could sell you that, Honda Odyssey, but I choose not to because you're a single guy who doesn't have kids and isn't interested in, the shaggin' wagon.
We're trying. We're trying. Cut me some slack. I got time.
And I could offer you that.
Mhm.
But instead, what I'm going to offer you is the off-road capable truck that can carry all your equipment, transport you. You look dope as heck rolling up whether you're going to a networking meeting, a nice date, or just coming in and out functional for your day. You feel like the man. This is the place that you want to be. I've tailored it to you, even though I have this other offering. And you could go with that. In fact, it might even be, same price range, but it doesn't provide you the ultimate value that's built into your life. So you've got to be able, like this is what you were alluding to earlier, tailor your presentation of the solution to the client. Far too often, advisors fail because they think clients know how you think.
Mm.
And that sounded like a circular statement, but it's not. You make an assumption that the client recognizes that you have walked through and eliminated 6 other possibilities before you came to them with your specific solution. You told them I offer tailored advice, but you didn't tell them what you cut away. And clients benefit, and ultimately you benefit when you can express what you cut away. We considered this, but it doesn't fit because you're actually in a state that doesn't allow for X, Y, and Z. We were looking into doing a tax loss harvesting portfolio on your behalf, but because of the way your assets are currently situated, it would take 6 years to really unwind. And you told me you want to get this done in a 3-year time frame. So here's the alternative that we're recommending. I've done my homework. I've looked at some things. I've cut away, and you don't need to spend a lot of time. That took me, what, 7 seconds to say I looked at it and evaluated and didn't work. So that's why we're recommending X specifically for you. Those are the types of things that build credibility, that build expert level status, and continue to hold you. I'm not in competition with anybody else on the market because I can do everything they do, only better.
Mhm.
And therefore, I'm not afraid to tell you that you could do business depreciation strategy I'm not afraid to open up that box. Well, what if they start looking into it? Well, if they start looking into it and find a compelling reason to go there, you failed at showing them why it's not good. Or if it is good and you're a fiduciary, you should have been offering it to begin with. Oh, well, Jason, that's outside of my business model. I don't do that. I understand. But if it is really good for people, should you consider including it in your business model and finding a way to refer people to it? Doesn't matter if you get paid. You want to do what's in the best interest of the client. That's what I thought the fiduciary standard said. So I'm not getting into recommending what business model you should have here. I'm just using these extreme examples to say you've got to position yourself as a holistic expert. I understand the market. I understand ways to do this that don't include me. And if that's right for you, I'll point you in that direction. By the way, if it's not something I'm not even going to do that. Just cut that out of the when we edit. Just eliminate that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But one thing I do want to dive into, we were talking about different questions, right? Like advisors will ask questions, that are maybe what we call an impact level question versus just a problem question, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess, can you break down the impact level questions versus the problem questions and how to use that to help with creating what we call that contextual relevancy for when you're solving the problem? Because the biggest thing is, you were talking about it, we're not trying to force problems on the prospects, right? We're trying to show them the context and forecast out the situation of what they're going through right now. Then we can provide the solutions that we can offer and help them. So I guess maybe if you want to dive into that as well, the difference between those two.
Yeah. So the language there is so key. I want you to frame up the two different types of questions. Say that again, because you did it really well.
Mm-hmm. The impact questions versus just problem-based questions, which most advisors just focus on.
So we come to our clients with the training that's been given to us, and most of the time you hear language that says, find the pain, find the problem. And so we focus on problems that are, we focus on questions that are direct. And we kind of come at it with a blunt force object of saying, so Joseph, what would happen if your portfolio lost 40% like it did in 2008?
Mm-hmm.
And oh my gosh, I want to throw up in my mouth saying that. You sound like every other cheeseball, sleazeball that they've talked to. Mm-hmm. How can I get that client to understand that level of impact and that level of pain without using that same language? Instead of focusing on identifying the problem, focus on identifying the impact of the problem on their life. And sometimes you actually, because it's so cliche, like 2008, you almost need to apologize for asking the problem and even getting into it. So you frame it up softly. Like, look, you told me that you're concerned about running out of money, and I get it, and there's market issues going on, and because they brought this up, right? You want to frame these impact questions often in based on what you told me, because you mentioned that you're really concerned about the market and losing money. And listen, I don't want to be that guy. Call out the elephant in the room that you're about to say the sleazeball cheeseball thing. I don't want to be that guy, but we have to address this. So, in 2008, portfolios went down 40%. What would you do in that situation? Rather than saying, like, what would happen? Asking a more specific impact. What would you need to do if that happened in 3 years in your portfolio or 3 years into your retirement? What would you need to do differently? And then be quiet. You need to be able to rest in silence and let them wrestle with what you just put on them. So rather than trying to identify the problem itself, identify what they would do in the event of the problem, or what the problem would prevent them from doing. So if they've said we want to visit the grandkids and we want to travel, this is one of the times where you can ask a yes or no question. Everything doesn't always have to be open ended, but saying, John, you said you wanted to travel twice a year. If the market went down and you lost that 40%, would you do that? Just getting a direct no out of them is fine at that point. No, because you're not interested in that answer. You're interested in the answers to the next question. The next question. It's not even a question. It's just a statement. Gosh, that's got to feel horrible.
You know what's interesting too in that sense, the silence you were talking about. And I think this is something that a lot of advisors, it's kind of awkward. And on Zoom, especially, it can feel a little because you're not there. And it almost feels like someone needs to be filling the conversation the entire time. Is, we've been building out, AI setters, right, to help with some of the prospecting, the day-to-day things. And a lot of people talk about latency, or they're like, well, sometimes the AI will wait when it asks a question after someone responds. Sometimes if you wait an extra second, 2 seconds, right, the prospect then feels the need to elaborate on what they just told you. Versus if they give you that, you ask them like, would you still travel? And they say no, and you get all uncomfortable and you start talking, well, yeah, that makes sense. Like it would be a really tough time. You're then feeling, because the entirety of what we're trying to do is get prospects to we're not trying to tell them they have a problem. We're trying to get them to admit that they have a problem and open up about their problem. And so by just giving that little pause, the prospect will probably be the one who's a little more uncomfortable in just a little bit of silence, and they will open up and then tell you everything you want to know. And so I think that's something you were mentioning it. It's just such a little thing that you do that changes how your conversations go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't even like the language necessarily of trying to get them to admit that they have a problem, because that presupposes that they know that they have a problem and that they are hiding that from you. And I don't want to, put myself in an oppositional mindset to the client that I got to get them to admit something to me because they're hiding.
Mhm.
They're real people. And perhaps they're hiding something from themselves. And they've not even given themselves permission to wrestle with that question. So if I'm going to hit them with something heavy, first I'm going to soften it by saying, listen, I don't want to be that guy, but as a fiduciary, if you're asking me to solve this problem for you, I really need to know this type of an answer. And then when they say no, let me pause. When they're silent, I'm not going to fill it with options. This is one of my pet peeves when I'm coaching advisors or when I'm working in meetings, jointly with advisors. Do not answer questions with options for your clients, because this is what advisors will do. They'll ask that question. Would you still travel? Would you still go see the grandkids the way you were going to? Or would you have to drive? Or would you have to, only go once in a while? Would you maybe ask them to come to you? Because you are feeling uncomfortable as the advisor that maybe I offended them. Maybe they don't want to answer that. Your job isn't to make them comfortable. Your job is to make them realize you're the place of comfort, and where they sit today is actually uncomfortable. Inaction is the uncomfortable decision in this. You are the place of answers. You are the place of comfort. Their current situation is a place of discomfort or impending discomfort. And you need to let them wrestle with that. It takes more than a millisecond for your body to get there. And then it's going to take 5 to 10 seconds for your mind to process and get it out and be willing to self-actualize that, man, what would I do? Oh, no. No, we wouldn't travel. And then you just want to be a human. When they give you that impact answer of no, well, what would happen if me and my buddy Joe were just hanging out and we're sitting in hot as heck Arizona in 100-degree weather. It's the middle of August, and Joe just said something very, very discomforting that my air went out, and I can't get the guy to come out for the next 4 days, and my girlfriend's family's coming over. What is your natural human response to that? Whatever that first thing was that popped into your head is the most human response. And for me, it was, damn, bro, that sucks.
Yeah, it's the empathy.
And that's a valid response to your client, to be a human for a moment. Mm-hmm. So they say, oh, we don't get to see the grandkids the way we thought we we're going to. Now, maybe damn, bro, that sucks is the wrong language to use to your $1 million client. I don't know. Maybe he's that guy. But it is very appropriate to say, oh, man, that's got to feel horrible. I'm just acknowledging what he said. This is how you can get into a feeling-based conversation without getting touchy-feely. How would you feel about that? You just label the feeling on them. Man, that's got to feel awful. If your label is right, they will identify it and think that you're a hero. Yeah, he gets me. She gets me. They understand that would be bad for me to lose, and they're going to have these internal warm fuzzies. If your label is wrong, they're going to give you the right label, and they're going to say, I don't know if it'd be awful. We could deal with it. Okay, I don't need to focus on fixing that problem for you because I don't fix small problems. I fix big ones. Because you're not going to pay me to fix a small problem. You're going to pay me to fix a big problem. Either way, I learned something valuable, that I'm barking up the wrong tree when it comes to making sure that their plan is bulletproof for travel, when the reality is what he's really concerned about is he saw his mom go through taking care of his dad and how much that weighed on her, and he would hate for his wife to have to do that to him. So his concern is not about travel, even though that's what he said initially. When I labeled it as that's got to be awful, and it's not that big a deal. Oh, okay. It tells me I need to walk down another path to understand what his actual problem and discomfort is that he's going to pay me significantly to solve, because not all problems bear the same weight. And it is not up to me to dictate what is the most important problem to solve. That resides in the context of the prospect. And a problem does not have value outside of its context. Just like the earlier example, I can give you a great deal on a minivan as a single guy. Who cares? You're not solving my problem. I don't want a minivan. Do you know how much swag points I lose driving up to the date in a minivan? No.
Find out if she truly loves you. No, but I think that's great too, because I think sometimes, advisors, you're in a professional field, you're dealing with a lot of big problems. But when it comes down to it, right? I mean, you've bought services, you've worked with professionals, other professionals. I've bought services, I've worked with other professionals. When you think about it, yes, you care about the professionalism, you care about the service and the product. But at the end of the day, there is a level of human connection. And those times when you've, gone, I like this process, I like the system. It's not because this person came with all of the biggest jargon and the most, high level stuff, and they were trying to wow you with their expertise. It's because you connected with that person because they understood your actual problems, and they tailor those systems and what they could do for you to the actual problem. So when you're saying like, what's the first reaction? A lot of advisors will be like, well, I can't say that. I have to come up with some eloquent response to this person. It's like, no, they're also a human at the end of the day, right? They want to feel like they connect with you.
In this world of AI and bots and chat bots and automated responses and digital presences and scams and everything else, people are longing for humanity. Listen, leveraging all those tools to get them in front of you, you paid a lot of money to do. But if straight, cold, factual information converted people, you wouldn't bother showing up on the meeting. You would say, here's the Dropbox, send me your statements, and I'll send you your solution once you send me the check.
Mm-hmm.
But you exist for human to human contact. And if you are not doing things as an advisor in a virtual conversion space to optimize the amount of humanity you can show on your meeting, meaningful humanity, professional humanity, because it is very professional to say, man, that has to make you feel awful to not be able to meet with your kids 3 times a year after you plan so hard. I'm not going to let that happen to you. We're going to solve that in this plan if you choose to work with me. I'm circling it on my paper here. Leverage those opportunities to draw out a real emotion you can label, saying, man, that's got to make you feel uncertain. Wow, that's really sounds like that's going to take out your plan from the knees. I bet. Does that make you as mad as it does me to think about paying all those taxes on dollars you don't even need?
And everything you've done too, big thing is forecasting, right?
Yes.
Kind of even with the market, the 2008 financial crisis, it's not about like, oh, the current situation. You're trying to get the prospect because in their current situation, they're likely, especially when it comes to this type of services, what you are offering, right? Now, if someone comes to you and they just retired and they messed up, and now they're like, I need to make a decision and change something. That's not typical. A lot of times these people are looking out, hey, I'm looking to retire in the next 3-4 years, right? It's not going to impact them immediately. What these changes will often be. So a lot of times we need to forecast out, well, what does this look like, 5 years down the road? And so you have to do that with the way you phrase your questions, kind of like you were saying. It's like you're trying to get them to think about the future, not just what's going on right now.
Yeah. I want to come back to something I said earlier. Not everything has to be an open-ended question. That's kind of played out, quite frankly, because the marketplace adapts to sales. Nobody wants to be sold. Everybody wants to make their own decisions, feel independent. They don't want to feel cornered. And sometimes the framing of our questions just feel like you're cornering me, dude. That's not right. You're just trying to make me say something. So sometimes there's that two-step process to the real feeling, like I just identified with labeling. Another way that you can approach that, rather than asking the open-ended question, is self-framing. Listen, if I was in that position, these are the things that would be on my mind. And self-labeling. Is that where you're at? Asking them to reflect on you. Take some of the pressure off of them. Because listen, not everybody feels the same way about certain problems in life. The other way you can identify is by grouping. Listen, I work with a lot of folks that sound just like you, or that are in the same position that you're in, and here's been their top 3 concerns: X, Y, and Z. With X, the problem usually exists because 1, 2, 3. With Y, the problem usually exists because, or the concern usually exists because 1, 2, 3. With Z, the concern usually exists with 1, 2, 3. What are the commonalities that you've seen in other folks that you've worked with? Again, it shows expert level status. People like me have engaged with him. He knows what our problems are and he knows why they exist. Now, the solutions for those are pretty simple. Once we dive in, we apply, 3 or 4 of our strategies to them, and clients have loved the results. They haven't hired me, so I'm not telling them what the strategies are.
Mhm.
Once they hire me, then they get to see what the strategies are. Hire me or move assets. Then you get details.
You know what that also prevents too, because I get a lot of advisors who are like, man, like and a lot of advisors are great at what they do. This is not saying they're not great at what they do, right? Especially with a lot of the advisors we work with, it's typically, fee only, fee based. They're focused on just really providing great services to their clients. But when you go and you just tell them all of these strategies and systems, this is where you get a lot of advisors that come back and say, man, I'm just getting these people that just take my information, right? They just want my information because you are telling them everything you do. It's like it, you're treating it as if they paid you $1,000 for your consulting and expertise. And you're giving them, here's the strategy I would do. Here's how we'd solve this. This is what you got to do here. And at that point, it's like, well, he's told me everything. And there has to be a little, you don't want to say gatekeeping, but I mean, that's what they pay you for. Think about the industry you work in. It's all about what is the knowledge I have and the expertise I have to help you solve the problem. If I tell you everything that I can do and I show you exactly step by step what to do, you're going to get some people that go, well, now I think I can either figure it out or I can go shop around and find other advisors or, even my current advisor, because a lot of the prospects you meet with or that you want to meet with, you want prospects that already have an advisor, right? And so you get into that game of you're giving too much, you're consulting basically.
Listen, I don't have a problem with the term. I know it's not cool in the in society today, but yeah, I'm going to gatekeep my business.
Mhm.
I don't run a charity, and you don't have a right to my intellectual property without engaging with my business. I've spent over a decade and over $100,000 developing these strategies. I've made other people pay me thousands of dollars to access this intellectual capital, and I would be spitting in their face to give it to you for free.
Mhm.
I have no problem gatekeeping. That's why they paid me to gatekeep information for their benefit. Because if what you can do can be explained to a T and with a bow wrapped around it in a 45-minute slide deck, what value are you presenting? Because the other thing is, some people refuse to apply friction to prospects because they think the frictionless interaction is the one that leads to a closed deal. It often leads to the deal slipping right by your hands because there was no stickiness. There was no traction towards you becoming the problem solver. So rather than identifying better ways of presenting your solution, focus on helping clients recognize their situation and the depth of the problem that they hold. And then you want to give them a preview of what a solution looks like for those who have chosen to work with you in the past. So, Mr. and Mrs. Client, here are the 3 things that I see as primarily a hurdle to an optimum portfolio or an optimum retirement for you. 1, 2, 3. When I've worked with clients in the past, we've done these high-level strategies. 1, 2, 3 to address them. In the end, they've seen XYZ improvement. Well, what are the strategies? I'd love to share that with you. And there's really one of 2 ways we move forward from here. Fee base, move assets. That's how it is in my practice. So I can show you conceptually what I do. And sometimes the things that we do are a little bit more difficult. So You know, you need to show them an image, a picture, but this isn't custom to them. And it may be very, very removed from what they would do. But this is the type of system development we do for you.
Yeah. No, and that makes complete sense. And we're getting close to that edge of diving into, not objection handling, but helping people understand that big change, which we'll dive into. I know we can go in on that. But I guess, you know, the biggest thing here is really just one context, right, of what you're providing. And it's not about just presenting a pitch. It's not about just selling people. It's about understanding what is going on in their situation. What do they want? And then showing how you solve those problems with your value and getting them to say, yeah, that this makes sense. Like he understands my context, my problem, and can help me solve those problems. So I think, this is a really good one in terms of just diving into how do you present? Because there's so many ways in the virtual sales side that you lose business, right? Maybe you're doing a great job with discovery. You're getting statements like crazy, but then you show up with a 25 slide pitch deck and now you're just lulling people to sleep, right? Or maybe you have a great process for closing prospects, but you're not able to get the statements because of the discovery, right? And there's so many pieces that I think this is a really crucial piece in terms of, getting doing it the right way.
Yeah. I think I would say is one of the reasons why clients or prospects rather will walk away is because they don't feel your conviction.
Mm.
They don't, as you present this as an option we could do. Well, I'm a fiduciary. My job, my title says that I need to present to the client the best, what's in their best interest. So if you've done your job, you hold your hat out on that and you pound your chest a little bit of Mr. Jones, we've evaluated all the ways that this could work for you. And this is the best solution out there. You're not going to find a better way to do it as much as you look. I'm confident of that. And I hope you are, because it's what you hold yourself out as a fiduciary, the
Mhm.
one who's going to find what's in their best interest. Do your homework so that you can present with that level of confidence. Know your strategies work, know you've evaluated it, and let the client know that you know. And people buy, this is where, you know, I don't buy into so much. People buy from those they know, like, and trust. I think trust is a unremovable factor to that equation. I don't think knowing and liking are necessarily present in a online transaction. They can't think you're a scumbag, but they don't necessarily have to want to have a beer with you.
Mhm.
They don't necessarily have to want to hang out with you on a weekend. I don't like my dentist. I don't like my doctor. I don't want to go hang out with them,
Yeah.
but I know that doctor who repaired the Achilles of multiple my Anaheim Ducks can do the work on my Achilles, and I trust him. He was a little bit quirky, a little bit weird, but he showed me what my problem was. He showed me what the solution was, and he showed me what's new and unique in the world and how he's leveraging it to my benefit. I don't need to go hang out with him. I need him to fix my Achilles.
Mhm.
Your clients don't need to hang out with you and like you. They need to trust you and believe that what you're putting in front of them is in their best interest. They need to know enough about you to know that you have the credentials, the credibility, the processes, the support system to put the best thing in front of them. Know and trust is much more important than like.
100%.
So don't be so worried about adding friction to the process. That's why you don't get any information from me if I haven't gotten statements. I'm sorry, I don't have time to put half-baked plans in front of people. It's a waste of your time and it's a waste of mine.
It's needing
So
nothing, so not desperate for it, you know?
exactly.
Yeah. 100%. Well, I think this was a good one. I know we're running out of time here, but appreciate it, Jason, and talk to you soon.
Yeah, absolutely.